Christian parenting.
Welcome to Pardon the Mess. I'm your host, Courtney DeFeo. Parenting is messy. Can I get an amen? Like, it's physically messy. Stepping on Cheerios or maybe a cheeseburger wrapper falling out of your car in carpool. It's also emotionally and spiritually messy every day in every stage. On this podcast, you'll get some nuggets of wisdom on parenting and faith and find some super helpful resources. But my greatest hope is that you'll never feel alone in the hilarious, stressful, glorious, and painful journey of parenting. You guys ready? Let's laugh and learn together. Here we go. I love this girl's name so much. Now she's my friend, so I can say I love my friend's name, Farrell Mason. Don't you think if God was like, you know what, we're going to make a girl live in Nashville and be a pastor and have 6 kids and have bees and make pies, that her name would be Farrell Mason? I mean, it's just like straight out of a movie, but y'all, she's real. She's the real deal. And I learned about her from my friend, Elizabeth Hasselbeck. And when Elizabeth recommends somebody, I typically listen because Elizabeth has an amazing radar for great people. And she sent me her book. It's called Soulful, and it's a devotional. And I really loved the topic today because I think, myself included, all of us moms know what it's like to just kind of be going through the motions and feeling exhausted about our weeks and like, does any of this matter? Like, are we just doing Groundhog's Day over and over again? And so she gets really practical on how we can fill our souls daily and gives us a challenge to us to try to do that. And then we talk about how to care for people. I know those are 2 different topics, but that's what she does. That's her job. She's a minister of pastoral care. So I definitely wanted to pick her brain on how do we go about loving our friends well during their tough times in life. So double whammy, 2 great topics, and an amazing, amazing author, pastor, and now friend, Farrell Mason. Enjoy. Hello, Farrell Mason. How are you?
Good. How are you?
It's good. I wish I was sitting, if y'all can't see her, which you will in the clip, but I want to be sitting right there at your table. That would be fun, huh?
You've got to come to Nashville and sit at my table.
I would love it. I learned about you from our dear friend, Elizabeth Hasselbeck, and I was telling you before we started that any friend of hers is a friend of mine. I feel like we're already connected because she has such a tender heart for people. And when she says like 10 times, I need you to meet Farrell, I'm like, I listen, I pay attention when it's Elizabeth.
I so appreciate that.
She's a big fan. So I have so many titles going for this one that I don't know where we'll land, but a couple of them. So I really want to talk to people that feel like their life isn't mattering, that they want more. One of the things you've said to me in the past is that when you feel like your life is running you versus, you running your life, there's so much I want to get to today. And I really do hope that there's going to be some women that relate and say, oh my gosh, like, how did they know? Did they just climb into my heart and mind and speak to me in a way that they know what I'm going through? So I pray it's a big moment for people today. So before we get into that, will you tell me about your family?
Okay, so I have 6 kids.
Yes, you do.
They range from the age of, Charlie is going to be 22 in October, down to my first grader, 8 years old, who is Finn. So 6 kids, 3 dogs. Right now I have around 50,000 bees. Sometimes we have a fish. The fish didn't make it through spring break. I really want a peacock. My husband's not going to let me get a peacock, I don't think. But I have a really bustling and busy household.
Wait, I love peacocks. What makes you want a peacock?
I love peacocks too. Well, I've always just been fascinated. I lived in London when I did my graduate degree, and I would run in Holland Park, and they would just be everywhere, roaming free with these beautiful fans. I write a little bit about them in Soulful, but I've just had a fascination. And then Flannery O'Connor, that's her symbol for resurrection is the peacock. And I don't know, I just envision all of these animals all around my household. But my husband says peacocks are really loud, and we already have a loud household. So he's kind of said no to that one, but we'll see.
It feels right for your bio. It's like mom of 6, author, speaker, peacock owner. It feels right.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I got him to let me have bees, like he was like, we are not going to be beekeepers. And I'm like, we are going to be beekeepers. And so we're like I think this is going to be our 5th season of beekeeping.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, so who knows?
Have
There
you
may be a
convinced
peacock in the
Elizabeth to
future.
do that? I can see her wanting to be a beekeeper.
No, but she loves my honey.
I bet she does.
Hey, once you get honey from around the corner, you can't go back.
That's right. That's amazing. Well, will you also tell us about how you became a minister? And I love how long it took you. I think so many moms will be like, oh, praise the Lord. Like you didn't just go back and snap, I have a master's degree in like a day. So tell us how that came about.
Oh gosh. Well, I know. I think I'm the longest lasting student at Vanderbilt Divinity School than they've ever had. I mean, when I graduated from the Divinity School, one of the professors was like, you need to go first. Like, we want you just to have your entrance out there because you have been here so long. And I think that is a great thing to tell moms that normally it takes a divinity degree 4 years. And I think it took me 10.
10. That's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
I think it took me 10. And, I had to stop and start sometimes. In some semesters, I would just take 2 classes, and other semesters, I'd take 4. But to go back, we had our first child, Charlie, in New York City. We were both working in New York City. And on Christmas Day, he was 10 weeks old. He was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma. And so imagine, my life was in art. And I'd gotten my first degree working in the art world. And then all of a sudden, our life kind of came to a complete halt. And he was treated at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City, full year of treatment. And then obviously for 10 years, we were going back once we moved to Nashville every 3 months, every 6 months, every year. But I had a couple of scenarios on the night. I'll never forget it. On the night that Charlie was diagnosed, they came and told us the awful news. Yes, your son has stage 4 neuroblastoma. We had a chaplain come in the room, and he kind of felt like, do you remember that show when we were kids, but like Bozo the Clown?
Yeah.
He said all the platitudes. He said, God only gives you what you can handle. It was all this really surface kind of saccharine messaging that really did not land on my tender, broken heart. And so I can remember being probably like 3 months into the treatment and really involved with the other parents who were going through the same thing. And I thought, you know what, if I ever get through this, I want to be the person that walks into the hospital room or walks the floor, the pediatric floor. And I want to say what I know these mothers want to hear and what these families want to hear, which is, presence and hope, and that this is not going to be easy, right? And we're going to do it together.
Right.
And we had a really amazing minister in New York, Dr. Tom Toole, who we would meet. We would have these little fireside chats in his office every Friday, standing. And he really kind of handheld us through that year. He kind of buoyed our faith. He spoke words of hope into us. He really just anchored us in God's presence and the possibilities and hope and rising during that year. And we had a dinner, kind of a send-off dinner when we moved to Nashville. And he said, Farrell, I think you should go to divinity school. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just focused my entire career on going this direction. But, I listen when God puts these little nudges and road signs. And so I took it seriously. I entered Vanderbilt Divinity School. We know that I was there for a long time. At the same time, though, I was hired to be a pastoral minister at a church, an amazing church here in Nashville. And I have been there. I'm going on my 18th year of doing pastoral care. So I kind of was doing that and writing and doing school all at the same time and having all these kids. But it has been a tremendously meaningful experience,
Yes.
kind of being that person that I said I wanted to be for other people going through hard times.
Can you even imagine if God had been like, hey, Farrell, like in that hospital moment saying, in 20 years, you're going to be pastoring to people in the hospital and Charlie's going to be just fine. Like, could you have even gotten your mind around what was ahead?
The answer is I didn't know how all the puzzle pieces would fall into place. But I don't know if I, was born this way or if I just really trust God. But I felt like somehow, some way, God is going to navigate this path. And trust me, I mean, it has been exquisite and it has been brutal.
Yeah.
The last 20 years. There have been many really wonderful moments where I'm like, yes, God is with us. I feel full of hope and I feel radiant and I feel like I just want to bear hug this whole world and everybody in it. And then there have been other times where I've been sitting on the edge of despair thinking, oh my goodness, where are you, God? How are we going to see the light? Is it going to arrive? Is it going to come back, as the psalmist says, in the morning? Because it feels pretty darn dark right now. Yeah. And I've just kind of really tried to hold on. There's a poet, William Stafford, and he says, just never let go of the thread. And I've really tried hard to do that over the last 20 plus years.
Man, I'm excited that you are the one that we're having this conversation with, because I think that, first of all, you wrote a book called Soulful, a weekly devotional to nourish the mind, body, and spirit. But what it does is encompasses you, Farrell, which is such a tender, like pastoral pastor, minister that is actually walking with people every day in the midst of their suffering. But you've also been a mom, just like us, that has gone through seasons of incredible pain, incredible hope and joy. And so I think wherever you're coming to this conversation today, whether you are physically in the hospital or, I mean, you've walked with the Covenant families in Nashville, so you know so much about this topic. So let's talk about, we've got a lot to get to, but in your book, you talk about wanting to live a full life. And was there a moment, like, did it just start creeping? Like, what is this life for? Was it the Charlie thing, or was it things that started to wrestle? Like, am I just doing Groundhog's Day every day, or how do I live a meaningful, full life? When did that start coming to you?
Well, I was actually sitting in the pew and I'd just spoken at a dear friend's funeral. She was 40 years old, 3 children, married to her soulmate, passed away from colon cancer. And I remembered it was like one of those moments where kind of time stops. And I thought, you know what? I live my life as there's always going to be more time. More time to get it right, more time to live the life that I really, truly, and my soul want to live, more time to do the things that I really, before I do leave this planet, that I really want to do and be the person that I want to be. And I just really realized I operate that I've got plenty of time, plenty of years down the road to do that. And being a pastoral minister, you realize that no, that is not the truth.
That's right.
And the truth is if you don't do it right now, you may never do it.
Right.
And, I say I live in Grand Central Station at this household, which if I could just span the camera and you could see the hockey bags and the, lacrosse sticks. And I realized, you know what, Farrell Mason, you're going to have to be more intentional about how you spend your days, who you spend your time with, how you invest, what's important to you, what's meaningful, what is going to make an average, ordinary Tuesday feel like it isn't a blur, but something sacred and redeemable happened in that day.
Yeah.
And I do feel the preciousness of time.
Yeah.
And the sanctity of time, like I've never felt it, especially coming off the Covenant tragedy. We just celebrated the year anniversary. And, life it's precious. And we have to, for me, it takes serious intentionality.
Yeah.
And,
to
live a soulful life.
I shared with you before, but felt that deeply. Ron went through pancreatic cancer last year, and it definitely was a wake-up call we needed, and he's living differently. I've watched just even the less worry and the more joy and the things he says no to and doesn't care because he's like, I don't want to do that. And so it definitely lit a fire in us to do the same. I feel like I've been pretty good about intentional life, but I really did assume I'd have Ron for many, many years, and he's doing well now. But it was scary to have that moment to be like, okay, And it's hard to live that way. It's almost like someone telling you like, okay, you're going to have a baby for the first time. And you're going to need to do dot, dot, dot. And you can't take the advice because you haven't actually held a baby yet. It's one of those things where you're like, live like you're dying. But how do we do that? Like, how do we practically start turning that focus of our day versus surviving and the daily grind and just getting by versus like taking some ownership over what that looks like, even when it is Grand Central Station and chaos all the
Right.
time?
Well, okay, so I use the word intentional, and I think that really what makes up a life that feels rich and deep and meaningful and soulful to me, it has a couple ingredients, and the ingredients are nature. So, in all of these things, I try to touch point every single day.
Okay.
And some of them better than others, but I do. Nature's super important to me. It is my quiet time. It is the time where I'm not have kids hanging on my legs, and I go out in nature. I don't listen to anything. I just am present. It's the time that I pray. It's time to just breathe, not pray, just quiet. But I'm also in nature, which for me is probably the ripest place for me to experience the divine, is when I'm in nature. So that hits two things, actually, three things.
Yeah.
Nature, the beauty of nature, it just fills my soul up.
Yeah.
A little bit of beauty. I say somewhere in the book, a little bit of beauty, saves you for the day.
Right.
That we need to, I think Blaise Pascal says, keep something beautiful in your mind. All the time. And nature does that for us. God just gave us, we have this huge canvas that we can fill ourselves with beauty. So beauty, quiet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I try to do it at the beginning of the day. Time with God, family. Family is really important. And I want my household to feel like a sanctuary. So when people come in, whether you're, a stranger, a friend, my 8-year-old, my husband, I really want my house to feel like a calm, which I know I said Grand Central Station, but if you really came in at 5:00, you would see how, I have music playing. If it's winter, I have the fire going, offering cups of tea. But I want this to be the place where we leave the noise of the world, and we have one place in our lives that we do have as a calm, gentle place, which our souls need.
Yeah. Which gives such purpose to our roles as moms. It's like we act like we're just changing diapers and going to the grocery store, which it can feel that, but like there's so much more, like a bigger purpose in this that I don't want to say have control over, but we get to influence what the home feels like. We get to influence what distractions are there or what the mood is like and things like that. And so I love that you're bringing up those very practical things like the fire and the nature and things like that.
Well, and it's funny because we had some new friends over who've just moved to Nashville, and my 8-year-old came home from school, and he immediately came in the kitchen and he fixed himself a cup of tea, and then he walked down to his room. And the lady was like, "Wow, I mean, he's just fixed himself a cup of tea." And I said, "I know. Well, it's just another way that we're trying to let's calm this thing down.
Yeah.
Like, let's have a moment."
That's
right?
So good. All right, tell me this. So in my life, I've had epiphanies. It's almost like you go to church camp or you go to a conference or like a spiritual high. Like, that's it. I am like changing my life. And then you get back into the rhythm and you're like, wasn't I going to be intentional last week? So do you feel like this is just something we keep doing? It's not like a one and done. Like we decide tomorrow we're going to live like life is precious and we're going to make the most of our days. And then we're poof, it just happens. Like, is this a daily commitment and work and decision on your part?
Oh, and absolutely. Listen, I just did Easter week. And for people that work in the church, Easter, we had services Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and 4 on Sunday. So if you had visited my house on Sunday night, you would have seen like 8 huge baskets of clothes that had not been folded.
Yeah.
They were clean, but like we needed clothes for Monday to go to school.
Yeah.
It was a very busy week. And I knew it because I felt it in my spirit. I knew that I think we all know it. We're a little tired. We're a little rough around the edges. We're a little less patient. And those are signs like, okay, we got to reset.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I gotta wheel it back because I've just done a week where maybe it does feel a little bit like a blur, where I've just been making it through instead of making it sacred. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? We're gonna have weeks like that. It's more just realizing I don't want to live like that all the time.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Monday morning, you know, I was super intentional about I'm like bringing it down.
I love that. Bringing it down.
Right. I'm just going to bring it down. And I can't tell you, you know, May is going to be crazy. We all know as moms that May, we all know it. And then all of a sudden it hits us like a Mack truck.
Yeah.
And we're like, we're in May.
It's worse than December now.
Yeah, it's a crazy month to be in May.
Yeah.
And so I just have to carve out little moments where, you know, I'm going to go get in nature. I'm going to set the table for my family. We're going to sit down and have dinner together.
Yeah.
And Finn's going to have a cup of tea, and I'm going to definitely have a bath.
Yeah.
Often as possible.
I love that. It's funny you said that about just your response to the chaos. Like, so Ella is in the middle of her junior year. ACT's happening. Where am I going to college?
Oh, baby, I'm right there with you.
Just
I got
all
one
the
too.
stress. And I'm sure I knew it was coming.
All the stress.
I'm trying to dial it down, but she took it yesterday. It was just a lot of intensity around the school and stuff. And so she came home. No, the night before, she was feeling super overwhelmed and she couldn't get her thoughts straight and her anxiety was up and stuff. And so she said, I'm resetting. And I said, you're resetting? And she said, yes, everything's getting reset. So she went up to her room. She cleaned her room. She took a bath. She put all of her clothes up. She cleaned out her car. And it just, like she said, it brought it down for her to be like, okay, I can breathe. Because it felt like everything was visually chaotic and her soul, it felt chaotic. And we've talked about like, okay, when you get in that spiral of like, am I going to go to school? What am I going to get? Da-da-da. Like, is there a verse? Is there a prayer? Is there something you can cling to have God interrupt that emotional chaos that's really happening? But it just showed me so much. I'm like, okay, even the 17-year-old understands the power of like, we got to bring it down. We got to bring it down.
Well, and you know, when I'm feeling that whirl, I have a prayer that I love, and the prayer is just simply, dear God, where am I? Where are you? Please close the distance.
Wow.
Oh, I say it over and over again. You know, I've needed to say it more this week than I did even last week because, you know, I can feel a little bit like I'm slipping and I'm not connected, and that's what brings me back.
Yeah.
Where are you, God? Where am I? Please close the distance.
I love that. We all long for home. We want our homes to be places filled with love and laughter. We aim to make them places of comfort, rest, and safety. Yet the homes we make always seem to fall short of satisfying our longing. These failings of our earthly homes expose in us a longing for a better one. Join author and Bible teacher Caroline Saunders for a new Bible study called Come Home. Over 7 weeks, she'll study the theme of home throughout the Bible, from humanity's first home to our eternal one. We'll see God drawing near to abide with us. We'll find that even the best aspects of our own homes here are just a glimmer of what God is building for us through Christ. In the end, you'll see that our longing for home is really good and it's purposeful. It's pointing us to our truest home, which is found in Him. Learn more at lifeway.com/come home. That's lifeway.com/come home.
Denim is in demand at Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston. Get cash on the spot for everything denim. Bring in your trendy and classic styles of gently used name brand denim. Get paid for your denim shorts, skirts, jackets, jeans, and more. We're looking for denim that is blue, black, or a bold color, and jeans in styles like mom jeans, bootcut, baggy, flared, and ripped. We want everything denim. Sell your denim for cash at Plato's Closet today. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
So in your book, you give all kinds of practical ideas and encouragements and devotions on how to really check on our soul. But can you give me some things that are soul suckers, like things that you go as moms, you're like, this is sucking the soul and the life right out of your day. And so things that we can almost put on as like blinders or cautionary flags to go like, that is going in nature and talking to God is going to help your soul going this way. And we know scrolling on social media for 4 hours and that kind of thing. Is there other soul suckers you would think of for your own life?
There were a bunch of moms on the sidelines, and I was listening to them talk about, Oh yeah, Jim. I have him in math tutoring Tuesday and Wednesday, and then he's doing this science camp on Thursdays. And then this other mom was like, "Well, we're doing violin, and we're also doing tutoring for chess." And I thought, "Oh gosh, we're not doing any of those things." And for a moment, I could feel myself like, "Oh gosh, should we be doing all those things? Should I be doing?"
Yeah.
I'm not doing enough. Oh my gosh, my child should be doing violin and the math
Yeah.
and the learning German and all of these things. And then I got in the car and I said, you know what, Farrell, you have to trust your intuition and
Yeah.
not, I got to take out the noise, and I got to do Farrell Mason's way of parenting, which is very imperfect. But if I can trust my intuition, if I can lean into prayer, if I recognize that it is going to be perfectly imperfect, then I can catch my breath. And I think we live in a world right now where it's just like more and more and more, and you're rewarded for busyness and you're rewarded for achievement, and and I have to check that, because I know that doesn't, it's like sandpaper for my soul. And if it is for me, then I know it is for my 11-year-old and my 13-year-old. It's too much, and at some point we have to say, you know what, we're losing
For
by
sure.
doing so much.
Yeah, I agree. There's been times on the weekend. We travel a lot because of Ron's job, and we're gone a ton. And there was one weekend where we didn't have anything. We were all just home, and everybody just kind of looked around. And Ella was like, "This has been the best day." Like it was like, it's like, oh my gosh, yes. And she asked for a hammock for her birthday, and she's been going outside recently and just laying on the hammock. And I'm like, that hammock has been the best $120 I've ever spent on Amazon. It's navy blue. Elizabeth would love that, but it's just been a good outlet to go out there and swing. But okay, such good stuff. Can we pivot to loving others? I know that is something that feels like the most sacred part of my weeks when I get to do that for friends, when people have done it for me. And I know you know it very well because of the journey you've been through with Charlie, but also your role as a minister of pastoral care. So let's talk about, how do we love others when we are so busy? Like, how do we make room for that?
Um, I feel like God gave us one another to make it through. And so we really have
Mm,
to invest in the people around us, because both of us know that there are going to be moments on the track. I call it passing the baton of hope. And there are moments where
mm,
your job is to pass it to someone. And then we both know there are going to be moments along the track where we're going to need someone to pass it back to us. And I
yeah.
think
Yeah.
because I've had to pass it and have it passed to me so many times, I know how important it is and what an honor it is when you can show up for other people. And I much prefer showing
Mhm.
up for other people than other people having to show up for me, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
what
Yeah.
I've realized though, we are really busy, and the simplest thing of a text. I have someone who lost her mom 18 months ago. And, she already did where everybody brought her food, and she already did where everybody brought her cards. But it's still 18 months, and the person that she talked to every single day on the phone is not here anymore. And so I will just send her a simple
Mm,
text that just says, Sarah, I just want you to know I was thinking about you today. What
mm,
we all want to think is that even though everybody is so busy, when we're going through something hard, that people are thinking about us. And so it doesn't mean that I have to
yes. Yes.
necessarily cook you a full roasted chicken, make you a pesto, show up with my blackberry cobbler and my muffins every single time, right? There's sometimes where
Yeah.
that is the moment. And you know what? I'm going to do that roasted chicken, and I'm going to show up at your front door, and I'm going to feed you and your body and your spirit. And then there are other times where we just need to give people nudges of hope. And a nudge of hope is a card in the
Mm,
mail. I mean, how nice is it when someone has taken the time to do a handwritten card, and all they have to say is, thinking about you, much love, Farrell, right? So
love it.
simple.
Love it.
A
Yeah.
text. I mean, we have our phones
Love
on
it.
us all the time. You are in the carpool line, and someone is going through
Yeah.
something. Maybe they're waiting for results on a scan, or maybe their child is suffering. And all you have to say is, I just wanted you to know I'm sitting here thinking about you. Love, heart emoji. Farrell.
Yeah. So good. I remember hugs meaning something to me that had not before. Like, I'm not a real
Hmm.
big touchy-feely person, but, I hug people. But there were a couple really good friends when I found out about Ron and I told them that said 0 words, and they hugged me probably the tightest they've ever hugged me, and it sent chills through my spine because they communicated everything that I needed to feel, that they were there, that they didn't have words, and they didn't try. So talk to us about that. Don't you think that's a common thing? And I do it too. Like, you just get so nervous. You're like, I don't know what to say. And then you throw out something and it's the wrong thing. So talk to us about how words are maybe not that helpful in the
Yeah, well, I
beginning. Is that
mean,
true?
sometimes we do. Listen, I've been doing this for a really long time. And, I walk up to that edge of despair of somebody, and you do. It's like, oh my gosh, am I speaking English, French, German? I don't know what to say right now. I'm like totally lost. Things are coming out of my mouth that I wish I hadn't said, and I want to take them back. And,
Yeah.
a hug, uh, you know, even just I just want you to know I'm thinking about you. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You're
Yeah.
stuck with me. I'm right here beside
Yeah.
you. Um,
Yeah.
it means so much.
Yeah. I think that's a thing that I know that you do and I love to do with my kids is to model that. My mom did it for me, but even bringing them along to show them, like, this is how we show up for people. My daughter's
Mhm.
actually writing her essay about what she learned about community through Ron's experience and how it made her want to be a
Mhm.
better friend. And I think that's one of the gifts of when you go through something, you're like, oh gosh, I'm going to be so much better at this on the other side. Like, and you typically notice that people that are really good at showing up and really good at empathy have been through something really, really devastating. So that's one of the wins for us. But let's talk about down the road some practical things. I think you mentioned it earlier, but like, let's show up later with food or let's show up later with the phone call because, as you've probably seen in your work, most of the action happens right away, right?
Well, right, and honestly, you go into it's almost like you're numbed out. Everything becomes a blur. You are in that shock and awe stage of, oh my gosh, I cannot believe my life has just completely taken a different turn. Life as I knew it has stopped. And so, in those first couple of weeks, I mean, of course, dropping by, bringing food, um, showing up at a funeral, all of those things are important. But once the dust settles and everyone goes back to their lives, you're still sitting there with it.
Hmm.
Right. And so that initial just wow punch of the first 2 weeks, um, it really doesn't set into people's cells as much as, you know, 6 weeks, 9 weeks. You remember the year
Mm,
anniversary, right? These moments that are further down the line where that person is still in body, mind, and spirit feeling it. And for you to all of a sudden surprise them with a nudge of hope, it just speaks
mm.
volumes. It means so
Yeah.
much.
Tell me about the rose bush. I remember you mentioned to me, and if you're picking up on this, we've had one conversation previous to this, and I didn't do my best interviewing job. So we are doing round two. But so I'm having things to pull from. You're like, but you mentioned a rose bush. Can you tell us about that? Because I thought that was so huge and practical. And we want to do flowers and we want to do stuff. But then you're like, what do I do with all these casseroles? All the flowers are everywhere. Like, tell us about the rose bush.
Well, I remember walking into someone's house, and there were, I promise you, like 50 vases of
Yeah.
flowers. Some of them were in stages of decay, and they were all over the house. And I remember getting in my car and I was like, I do not want any of that. That did not feel hopeful
Yeah.
to me. And so I love the Lenten rose. One, because my husband's a green thumb, me not so much. A little impatient, and but the Lenten rose, it just keeps coming back. And so I brought over just a simple plant, the Lenten rose. It wasn't this like glorious, this is beautiful thing, and planted it in this person's
Mm,
yard. And guess what? Sometimes it like grows out from the Lenten rose, will like sprout out in different places. It comes back right before
mm.
Easter every single
Wow.
year. And it's just this little visual. When I go to her house now, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that Lenten
Yeah,
rose.
that is I'm doing that. I'm doing it. I don't know if I can plan it. I might need your husband to help me. I'll just hope it
Yeah,
lasts.
David, that he comes in handy.
I'll call him. All right. Well, my heart is torn. I want you to have a last couple of minutes to encourage, and I don't know which direction to go. So maybe just let the Lord speak to you. But I'm thinking there's two groups here. There's one mom that is like underwater with the daily grind and feels like she's, and I think you had said life is running her and she's not running her life. So speak to her like, you're not doing it wrong, but there is more, right? There is hope. There's something more soulful that can happen in the midst of parenting. And then I'm also thinking of the person that's suffering that maybe isn't getting the casseroles or the friends or the whatever. And so that's two big pockets, but I love your pastoral heart. If you could encourage both of those, the mom that's wanting more and then the person that's struggling, if that's all right with you.
So for the mom that's like, oh my gosh, my life is totally running me, that they feel like days and weeks just kind of evaporate and they don't really have anything to show for it. The simplest thing I could tell you is do one thing for your soul a day. One thing.
Yeah.
And so that will look different for every single person. I mean, it could be, last Saturday I drove myself to this little French bakery and I got myself an almond croissant and I enjoyed it, relished it, savored it for me. I did not get one for anybody else.
I
just
love
me.
it. I love it.
But it also could be you saying, you know what, I'm gonna do like Farrell, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna get out in nature every day, and that could be 15 minutes. That you get out in nature, but really try to do one thing for your soul a day. That's you, right? You personally, and I feel like once you feel no guilt about that, and you realize how that actually affects in such a beautiful way all the people around you. When mama is calm and her edges are smooth and she's peaceful and she is not strung out, it affects every single person in my household. And so it's not a thing I should feel guilty about or feel selfish about. Doing things for me that's going to make me the calmer, gentler version of Farrell
But
Mason.
I'll say that's so natural, right? Like as mothers, we're like, we're going to pour everything out. We're putting everybody first. But you're right. At some point, that becomes ineffective. Like we cannot mother from a great place. And I've been there many a times. I took a 3-year time off of work, which isn't a very long extend to take care of myself. But I learned, and I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm bringing up a million points, but I was watching Runaway Bride the other day. And in the section, she's learning what she likes. She's making the eggs to try to figure out she's always liked the egg the way the guy was. And I'm like, I think I needed that break to go, what do I even like? Like, what even fills my soul anymore? Is it music? Is it a walk? Is it, and I'm learning I need way more downtime than I thought I did because I'm an extrovert. And I'm like, wow, I need some peace. I need quiet. So I wholeheartedly salute that advice and think that sometimes as moms, we forgot what we like. We forgot that it's okay to do it. And love that you're giving people permission to do that.
Well, and then, to the people that are going through really hard times, what I will tell you is reach out because actually people would love to help you. And I think, I personally have this problem of tendency of turning in when I'm going through something hard, getting quiet. And I think really what I should do and what everybody should do is not be afraid to reach out because we want to take care of one another. And we need each other to make our way. And I'm trying to do better about that. The other thing is, I believe there's always hope. And so hold on. And I can't tell you how long you're going to feel like you're in the darkness where it does feel like maybe God's not present or you are not making any headway. And what I would say again is to hold on because God will show up for you. The light it always does. The light does come back in the morning. It really does. And I can't tell you, I wish I could snap my fingers. And so many times and in so many pastoral situations, I've wanted to just fix it right now, make it go away for someone. And what really we need to do is what can we cultivate in those moments of darkness? And for me, that is a new closeness with God that I don't necessarily experience on the rose petal path. And so sometimes in those dark moments is when I have to give myself permission to say, okay, God, like, it's just me and you here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's just you and me, and I'm having a really hard time, and I need to feel your presence in a new and more profound way. I need you to drop hope into my cells so that I'll keep moving forward. And we do. I mean, we just celebrated the anniversary for the Covenant school shooting. And what I want everyone to hear is, in that church, we were rising. We felt hope and we felt promise, and we felt like God was seeing us through and walking us forward. And God says, I came so that you would have life and life in full. And the full part of it is always the operative word, because I think we think, oh, well, that just means it's going to be rainbows and sunshines, and really, I think the full part is going to be the brutal and the beautiful. We're going to have both of those things, and we got to learn how to navigate both of those things, hold both of those things in the container of our hearts. And that really does give us the rich and full and meaningful life.
So good. You should write a book about this, okay? Just kidding. Okay, so I think we are heading into summer after this episode airs. I think we all need to think about a very peaceful place. Maybe it's by a creek or someone else's backyard that's not your own, or just like a park, just somewhere. Let's grab Farrell's book, Soulful, and let's sit there and really ask the Lord to speak to us, but even just have those conversations, just say, like, what do I need to take care of myself this year? And then respond to those nudges of people that are hurting around you. And you just embody that so well. So thanks for inspiring me and having this conversation.
Thank you.
You're awesome. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Pardon the Mess. As always, we've got more encouragement and resources over at christianparenting.org. And you can also stay connected with us on social media at Pardon the Mess. And if you like this episode, I'd love for you to do two things. Press follow on whatever podcast platform you love, and also be sure to leave a rating so other parents can find us. Remember, you're never alone in this beautiful mess of parenting.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Corient. Corient provides wealth management services centered around you. They focus on exceeding your expectations and simplifying your life. Corient has been helping high achievers just like you enjoy their lives more fully, preserve their wealth, and provide for the people, causes, and communities they care about. As one of the largest integrated fee-only registered investment advisors in the U.S., Corient has deeply experienced teams in 23 strategic locations. Corient has extensive knowledge spanning the full spectrum of planning, investing, lending, and money management disciplines. Leverage Corient's exclusive network of experts to craft custom solutions designed to help you reach your financial goals, no matter how complex they may be. Real wealth requires real solutions. For more information, connect with a wealth advisor today at Corient.com. That's Corient.com. Corient.com.